Depth is another element of composition, and we can use scale to communicate depth. So I have a person in my composition here, and I take another person, and I put him into the composition there, and then I take another person, and I put him into the composition here, and then another person, put him into the composition here, and then there. Okay? And so I've really introduced an element of space and depth to our compositional rules. Now let's try this. Let's say I have the same drawing. Here's a person. Here's another person. Here's another person. Another. And then final person. Okay. I'm going to use tone. I want to take my darkest tone and I'm going to go here. Here's my person, first person. Going to go into a medium tone, second person. Going to go into my light medium tone. Third person. Notice how the depth that I'm saying with my scale is being supported with the use of tone. As things go back in space, there's more air between us and those things, and in a tiny and imperceptible way, it makes it so that things start to get lighter as they go back in space, okay? So let's try and reverse that. What would happen? Here's a composition. What happens if I take, in the foreground, I'm going to make a house. And then in the midground, I want to make a house. And then in the background, I'm going to make a house. Now let's say that I go to the house in the background and I make that one the darkest. And I'll make this one medium. And then I leave the front one light. You see how at this point we're not creating depth with tone? We have depth created with scale, but we sort of reversed it with tone. And in doing so, in a strange way, where this picture seems to go into the depth, this one starts to not do that. This one starts to stay strangely flat. You know, it starts to raise questions. There's some kind of dissonance in this picture, which is interesting. It makes for a slower, more complicated read. If the topic is a slower, more complicated topic that you're trying to convey, this could be a really nice choice, okay? Depth comes in all kinds of different ways. So for instance, let's say I have a drawing. And we've used this before. Depth can come like this. If I have a division and another division, and my next division starts to get smaller. As things get smaller, they move into the picture plane. If you have a reference up here, right? So if I have a circle here as my reference, I can go like this, make a bigger circle, and that pushes this circle back. I can overlap for depth, and I've gone smaller still, and that pushes that circle back. And I can reduce scale for depth, and that pushes that circle back the furthest. And now the picture space takes on a quality of a window. It's like we're peering into another world. And a lot of people, there's been a lot of aesthetics around, a lot of aesthetic ideas around that idea of a window, of a looking into, right? There's an Alfred Hitchcock film called Rear Window, and it's a great film. And it's a kind of riff on this idea that we're looking in through a window into another world. And so, and I'll think of like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the portal to the other world, and how often literature uses that notion of a portal to another world. So where this one here doesn't, the only device this has that creates the sense of a portal is that, right? And this one and that one, they have a much, much more effective, and even this one, they have a much, much more effective sense of moving into another world.